Aaliyah never planned to stand out. She was that quiet black girl sitting in the back row, hoodie up, notebook full of dreams no one cared to read. Her school wasn't the worst, but it wasn't great either. Chipped walls, flickering lights, and teachers who taught more from habit than from heart. Every morning she'd walk through those rusty double doors, hoping maybe today would be different. But it never was. Mrs. Collins, her English teacher, always had that look. The one that said, "I already know who you are." Every time Aaliyah messed up a word during reading or turned in homework a day late, Mrs. Collins would sigh loud enough for the whole class to hear. "Some people just aren't cut out for higher goals," she said once, right in front of everyone. The class chuckled. Aaliyah just stared at her desk, pretending the words didn't hurt. But they did. They cut deep. At lunch, she'd sit alone by the window, earphones in, watching groups of girls laugh and talk like they belonged somewhere. She'd scroll through her phone, pretending to text someone, just so no one would notice she had no one to text. In a world where confidence was currency, Aaliyah was broke. But what people didn't see was the fire building inside her. She didn't talk much, but her silence wasn't weakness. It was pressure. Pressure waiting to explode. At home, life wasn't easy either. Her mom, Denise, worked 2 jobs. Mornings at the diner, nights cleaning offices downtown. Their apartment smelled like coffee, bleach, and hard work. Every evening when her mom came home, she'd toss her bag on the couch and ask, "Baby, how was school today?" And Aaliyah would lie. "Good, Mama." Because what was she supposed to say? That her teacher didn't believe in her? That she was tired of being invisible? Most nights, Aaliyah sat by the window, staring at the city lights and wondering what success even felt like. Was it being popular? Was it getting straight A's? Or was it just proving to people that she could be more than what they expected? One day, during class, Mrs. Collins handed back the graded essays. Aaliyah's paper had a big red F on it. Mrs. Collins didn't even look at her, just said, "If you don't start trying, you'll fail this year." Some kids just can't keep up. That line hit like a slap. The class laughed again, and this time, Aaliyah didn't even blink. She just looked up at Mrs. Collins, her eyes calm but burning. Something inside her shifted that day, like a light switch flipping in the dark. She went home, dropped her bag on the floor, and locked herself in her room. Tears came, but so did determination. She pulled out her notebook, ripped the page that said "Dreams," and started rewriting it. This time, she didn't write what she wanted to be. She wrote what she would become. Top student, scholarship, change my life. From that night on, she stopped scrolling on her phone. She started watching study videos, copying notes from online tutorials, and staying up till 2 a.m. reading chapters she didn't even understand. Yet, her mom would peek in sometimes and say, "Baby, you need rest." And Aaliyah would smile, whispering, "I'll rest when I make it." At school, people noticed the change. She wasn't talking much, but her eyes looked different, focused. She started answering questions in class. She started asking for extra work. Mrs. Collins raised an eyebrow one day and said, "Well, looks like someone's finally trying." But Aaliyah didn't reply. She just smirked a little. Because deep down, she wasn't trying. She was transforming. Even when her friends asked her to hang out, she'd say, "Can't. Gotta study." They'd roll their eyes, call her boring, but she didn't care. The same people who laughed at her before were now whispering, "Yo, she's actually getting good." Still, the fear never left completely. That voice in her head, the one that sounded a lot like Mrs. Collins, kept saying, "You're gonna fail." But every night she opened her books anyway, fighting that voice with everything she had. She didn't know it yet, but this was just the beginning, the storm before her rise. The chapter where she learned that sometimes being underestimated isn't a curse. It's fuel. Because once a girl like Aaliyah decides to prove you wrong, there's no stopping her. The night everything changed didn't start special. It was just another long Tuesday. Same cold dinner, same silence in the house. The TV hummed softly in the background, playing some old rerun. Aaliyah sat at the kitchen table, head down, staring at her failed essay. The red F glared up at her like it was mocking her. Her mom walked in, exhausted, still wearing her diner apron, smelling like coffee and grease. She saw the paper, sighed, and dropped into the chair across from her. "Baby, what's wrong?" she asked gently. Aaliyah's voice cracked. "She said I'll fail, Mom. She said I'll never make it." Her mom went quiet for a long time, just staring at her daughter. The same daughter she'd raised alone since she was 16. Finally, she reached across the table, took Aaliyah's hand, and said, "Listen to me. You don't let nobody decide your future. Not a teacher, not a grade, not nobody. You hear me?" Aaliyah nodded, tears rolling down her cheeks. That moment, that tiny, raw second, lit something inside her, like her mom's words hit the reset button on her entire life. That night, she made a promise to herself. She was done being invisible. From that day on, Aaliyah flipped her entire world upside down. No more sleeping in. No more, "I'll study later." She started waking up before sunrise, laptop open, eyes heavy but determined. She began watching YouTube study channels, learning tricks and tips from students she'd never met. She filled notebooks with quotes, formulas, and affirmations. On her wall, she taped a paper that said, "Prove them wrong." Right next to it, another one, "Top student, no excuses." At first, it was hard. The more she tried, the more things seemed to go wrong. She'd study all night only to forget everything during tests. She'd fail again and again. But something about her was different now. She didn't quit. Every failure just made her angrier, hungrier. At school, Mrs. Collins still doubted her. She'd say things like, "Aaliyah, maybe you should focus on something realistic." But Aaliyah had stopped hearing her. In her mind, Mrs. Collins' voice was just noise, background static to her mission. One afternoon, during study hall, Aaliyah was sitting alone in the library, headphones on, eyes buried in a math book. That's when one of her classmates, Maya, one of the popular girls, came over. "Yo, why you studying so hard?" "It's just school." Aaliyah didn't even look up. She just said, "It's not just school. It's my way out." Maya blinked, surprised. That was the first time anyone had ever heard Aaliyah talk with that kind of fire. Weeks passed. Slowly, Aaliyah started rising. She began getting B's, then A's. Her teachers, even the ones who used to ignore her, started noticing. One day, Mrs. Collins handed her test back. It had a big red A on it. No comment, no compliment. Just that grade. But that was all Aaliyah needed. She ran home that afternoon like she'd just won a marathon. Her mom was folding laundry when she burst in, waving the paper. "Mama, look." Her mom smiled, eyes watering. "That's my girl." Aaliyah hugged her tight, whispering, "I told you, I'm gonna make it." From that day forward, she became unstoppable. Her routine turned intense, like something out of a movie. Up at 5 a.m. Study before breakfast, classes all day, homework after dinner, repeat. Sometimes she fell asleep at her desk, pen still in hand. Sometimes her head spun from stress. But every time she wanted to give up, she remembered that moment. Her teacher's smirk, that red F, her mum's tired but proud face. And she kept going. By mid-semester, even Mrs. Collins couldn't deny it anymore. She started calling on Aaliyah in class, started using her answers as examples. But Aaliyah didn't want praise. She wanted progress. One Friday afternoon, Mrs. Collins announced the final semester challenge, a research project that would decide 50% of their grade, the project that would crown the top student of the year. Everyone groaned, but Aaliyah just smiled. "This is it," she whispered to herself. "My shot." That night, she cleared her desk, turned off her phone, and got to work. The same girl who used to hide in the back row was now building her future one page at a time. She didn't know it yet, but this project, the one she'd soon stay up nights perfecting, would test her harder than anything she'd ever faced. Because the higher she climbed, the tougher the climb was about to get. The final project wasn't just an assignment. It was the moment. The one that could flip Aaliyah's story from the girl who almost made it to the one who did. Mrs. Collins stood at the front of the class, her voice sharp as chalk on the board. "This project," she said, "will decide your final grade. And for some of you, it'll decide your future." Everyone groaned, but Aaliyah's heart raced. She knew this was it, her shot to silence every doubt that had ever been thrown her way. The topic? Overcoming adversity in modern education. Aaliyah smiled to herself. Irony at its finest. She was literally living that topic every single day. She started working that night. The clock hit midnight, then 2 a.m., then 4. But Aaliyah didn't stop. Her desk became a battlefield. Books stacked high, sticky notes everywhere, half-empty coffee cups surrounding her like trophies of sleeplessness. Every time her eyes got heavy, she'd whisper, "Not yet. Not till I'm done." By the end of the first week, her project was shaping up to be something special, personal, deep, real. She wasn't just writing essays. She was pouring her story into it. Her struggle, her pain, her fight, all of it became part of her words. She wrote about what it felt like to be judged before you even speak, about teachers who see your skin before your effort, about how belief can come from within when the world refuses to give it to you. But right when things started going right, life hit back. 3 days before the submission, her old, beat-up laptop froze mid-sentence. She tried everything: restart, charger, tapping the keyboard, praying under her breath. But it just died. Screen black, no sound, nothing. For a few seconds, she just stared at it, numb. Then the panic hit. All her research, all her writing, gone. Aaliyah sat on her bed, clutching the laptop, whispering, "No, no, no, no." Tears came hot and fast. For a moment, she wanted to give up, throw it all away, say, maybe Mrs. Collins was right. But then she remembered her mom's voice. "You don't let nobody decide your future." That was enough. She wiped her face, took a deep breath, and whispered, "Okay. Let's start over." She grabbed her notebook, turned to a blank page, and started rewriting the whole project by hand. Page after page, night after night. Her hand cramped, her eyes burned, but she didn't stop. Her mom came home late one night and found her still at the table, surrounded by papers. "Baby, it's 3 a.m. You need sleep." Aaliyah didn't even look up. "I can't, Mama. This one's for me." By the final night, she'd rewritten the entire thing. 10 pages, hand-drawn charts, perfect grammar, flawless flow. It wasn't typed, it wasn't fancy, but it was real. The next morning, she walked into class with her handwritten project in a folder. Her clothes were wrinkled, eyes red, but she walked like she owned the room. When Mrs. Collins looked at the handwritten pages, her eyebrow raised. "You didn't type it?" "No, ma'am," Aaliyah said calmly. "My laptop broke." But I wasn't going to let that stop me. Mrs. Collins blinked, clearly not expecting that kind of confidence. She said nothing, just nodded slightly and took the folder. That weekend felt endless. Aaliyah couldn't sleep, couldn't eat right. Every sound made her jump. When the results were finally announced, the entire school buzzed with anticipation. The top student award assembly was the biggest deal of the year, and everyone knew Mrs. Collins would be the one to present it. As Aaliyah sat in the crowded gym, her hands shook. Sweat gathered at her palms. Her heart beat so loud she could hear it echoing in her ears. Mrs. Collins walked up to the microphone, reading from a paper. "This year's top student has shown not only intelligence but resilience, determination, and heart." The crowd grew silent. Aaliyah felt time freeze. Mrs. Collins paused. Her eyes flicked toward Aaliyah. "And the award for top student goes to Aaliyah Johnson." For a split second, Aaliyah couldn't move. The gym exploded in cheers. Her classmates turned, clapping, shouting her name. She walked up to the stage slowly, every step echoing louder than the last. Mrs. Collins handed her the certificate, eyes soft for the first time ever. "You earned this," she said quietly. Aaliyah smiled, not cocky, not bitter, just proud. "Thank you," she whispered. The crowd stood as she faced the microphone, tears glistening in her eyes. She took a deep breath and said, "To anyone who's ever been told they can't, let that be your reason to prove that you can." And in that moment, every doubt, every insult, every red F turned into fuel. And she burned brighter than she ever thought possible. The applause in that gym felt like thunder. For a second, Aaliyah just stood there, frozen, overwhelmed, barely believing it was real. The same girl who once sat in the back, invisible and ignored, now stood under the spotlight. Every cheer echoed years of pain flipping into pride. Mrs. Collins handed her the gold-trimmed certificate, her eyes softer than they'd ever been. "You earned this, Aaliyah," she said quietly, the kind of tone that carries respect, the same respect she once refused to give. Aaliyah took the mic. The crowd began to hush, all eyes on her, heart pounding. She looked out, saw her mom in the back row, hands over her mouth, tears shining under the gym lights. That sight almost broke her. She swallowed hard, took a shaky breath, and said, "When I started this year, everyone thought I'd fail. Some people even said it out loud. A few people looked down, guilty. But I learned something. You can fail a class, fail a test, even fail a grade. But you don't fail until you give up on yourself." The crowd grew silent. Even the air felt still. She continued, voice steadier now. "I used to believe my worth came from what teachers said, or what grades I got. But now I know it comes from what you do when no one believes in you." You could hear people whispering, "Wow." Some students clapped softly. Others just stared, completely locked in. Aaliyah looked straight at Mrs. Collins and said gently, not angry, not bitter, just truthful, "You told me I wouldn't make it. But thank you, because that's what pushed me to prove I could." The crowd gasped a little. Mrs. Collins's eyes glistened. For a second she looked down, maybe ashamed, maybe proud, maybe both. Aaliyah smiled faintly and turned back to the crowd. "To anyone sitting in the back of the class, thinking you're not smart enough or good enough, Listen to me. You are. You just gotta believe it before anyone else does. The gym erupted again. People stood. Even the principal was clapping now. Aaliyah stepped back, breathing heavy, the weight of the past year slowly lifting off her shoulders. She walked off stage, clutching her award like it was proof of survival. When she reached her mom, they hugged tight. The kind of hug that says, "We made it." Her mom whispered through tears, "I told you, baby. You got greatness in you." Aaliyah laughed, crying too. "Yeah, Mama, we both do." Later that evening, as the sun set, she sat on her apartment's rooftop, the city glowing beneath her. The certificate lay beside her, fluttering in the soft wind. For the first time in her life, she didn't feel small. She didn't feel like that quiet girl in the back. She felt seen. Her phone buzzed, a message from Mrs. Collins. "Aaliyah, I owe you an apology. You taught me something I should have known all along. Never judge a student by where they start." Aaliyah stared at the screen, half smiling. She typed back, "Thank you. And don't worry. We all learn at different speeds." She hit send and leaned back, laughing softly to herself. That night, she didn't stay up studying. She didn't chase perfection or replay her mistakes. She just looked up at the stars, breathing, finally proud of the girl staring back in the reflection of the night sky. Because this wasn't just about a grade. It wasn't about Mrs. Collins. It was about every kid who's been doubted. Every kid who's been told they weren't enough. Every dreamer who had to build their own light when no one handed them one. Aaliyah realized she didn't just become top student. She became something bigger, a reminder that success hits hardest when it's silent, built in the dark, fueled by pain, and finished with grace. And somewhere deep down, she knew this was just the start. The world was waiting. Colleges, opportunities, a whole future she'd once thought was too far to reach. But not anymore. She'd learned the truth the hard way. That sometimes the people who say you'll fail are the reason you fly. Years passed. The sound of school bells, the smell of old hallways, the sting of red Fs. All of it faded into memory. But Aaliyah never forgot. She carried those moments like invisible ink across her story, reminders of where she came from and why she could never go back. Now she stood under a different kind of spotlight, a college graduation stage. The crowd was massive, filled with families holding flowers and signs. Her mom sat front row, tears streaming down her face, whispering prayers under her breath. When Aaliyah's name was called, Aaliyah Johnson, honors graduate, the stadium erupted. Cameras flashed. Her mom screamed louder than anyone. Aaliyah grinned, walking across the stage with the same calm pride she had the day she held that top student award. Only now, she wasn't just proving something. She was living it. She walked off stage, cap in hand, and exhaled. She'd done it. The girl who wasn't college material. The girl who used to hide her face in class. The girl everyone doubted. She'd done it. After graduation, she didn't go for fame or money. She went home, back to the same neighborhood that once made her feel small. But this time, she wasn't the same Aaliyah. She carried wisdom, purpose, and a heart that refused to let others fall the way she almost did. She started tutoring kids at her old high school, the ones who sat in the back rows, quiet and uncertain, just like she once had. She called it the RISE program. It wasn't about grades, it was about self-belief. Before you learn equations, she'd tell them, you gotta learn your worth. Some of the teachers who once overlooked her now watched her teach with pride, including Mrs. Collins. She had retired a year earlier. But one afternoon, she stopped by the library where Aaliyah was working with her students. Mrs. Collins stood quietly for a while, just watching. Then she smiled softly and said, "You know, you turned out to be one of the best students I ever had." Aaliyah chuckled. "Guess failure builds character, huh?" Mrs. Collins laughed too, shaking her head. "No, you built yourself." "I just didn't see it soon enough." They hugged, not as teacher and student anymore, but as two people who had finally learned something from each other. As the sun set that evening, Aaliyah walked home, past the same streets she used to rush through after bad days. Only this time, she walked slow, soaking it in. The laughter of kids playing, the smell of food from corner shops, the sound of life happening. It all felt different now, lighter. She passed a store window and caught her reflection. The girl staring back wasn't shy or scared or hiding anymore. She looked strong, confident, like someone who'd seen storms and learned how to dance in the rain. Later that night, Aaliyah sat at her desk, the same one she'd once covered in coffee cups and sticky notes. It looked cleaner now, but one note still remained. The same one she'd written years ago in shaky handwriting. "Prove them wrong." She smiled, took a pen, and crossed out the word "them." Then, underneath, she wrote, "Prove yourself right." Because now she understood. The real challenge was never Mrs. Collins, never her classmates, never the system. It was her own doubt, her own fear, and she'd won that battle. A knock on the door broke her thoughts. It was one of her students, a young girl, maybe 15, holding a notebook close to her chest. "Miss Aaliyah," she said nervously, "my teacher says I'm not smart enough for college." Aaliyah smiled softly, recognizing that same spark of pain, the same fire waiting to be born. She pulled out a chair. "Sit down, sweetheart," she said warmly. "Let's fix that mindset first." The girl sat, shoulders trembling, eyes full of questions. Aaliyah leaned forward and whispered, "You're enough. You've always been enough. You just gotta show the world what you already know." And as the girl's tears turned into a small smile, Aaliyah knew her story had come full circle. Because this, right here, was her legacy. Not the trophies, not the degrees, but the light she passed on to the ones still walking through their own darkness. The camera could fade out there. Aaliyah smiling, the sunset glowing behind her, the next generation sitting across the table. A voiceover could whisper her final line, "They said I'd fail." But failure was just my first lesson in becoming unstoppable.